Isn't it surprising and perhaps overwhelming that out of 520 spoken languages, our collective knowledge on diverse culture and deities in this country is a little bit below par? I literally had to search page 2 of Google to get most of the material I'm using for this video. Hi guys, I'm Mr. E, and welcome to For the Culture, a picture show where I get to dig deep on the internet and share whatever I find on culture and mythology in and around Nigeria with you guys. Today, we're going to be answering the what, when, and how of African mythology. Because this is my first video, I think I should drop a disclaimer. Most sources I use vary from telling to telling, and may not coincide with what you already know. So, history graduates, please drop your weapons and cut your boy a little slack. Okay? Back to the video. Firstly, the what. What is African mythology? What is mythology? To put it simply, mythology is any of a number of different cultural explanations or narratives that are thought to tell us anything from an origin of life through to human evolution. Simply put, they are stories humans tell that reflect on the past of a certain culture. Despite its diverse scope, the very idea of mythology has certain common elements, or should I say cliches, like the struggle for power. The fight for power in a myth takes place between two opposing powers. The struggle for power may be between two supernatural powers, a supernatural power and a mortal, or two family members. This war may be as a consequence of a desire for power, vanity, or jealousy. The fight always ends with penalty, or even death. I know you're already getting some serious Ogun vibes. A quest or completion of a given task, explanation of how life, natural phenomena, came to be, and the good old fate of prophecy, which is arguably 60% of West African mythology, which we'll get to explore in later videos. As for the when, well, the history of African mythology as a whole, myths and legends, have evolved over thousands of years in sub Saharan Africa. Mass migrations that have taken place from time to time have been among the influences of their production. Around 7,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Hottentot and the Bushmen began to migrate from the sub Saharan to southern Africa. 5,000 years later, the people who spoke the Bantu languages started to spread from Cameroon on the west coast of Africa until they finally populated most of sub Saharan Africa. Such migrations caused myths and legends to spread from group to group and led to a mixture of myths and legends. Migration has also given rise to new stories about the events in the history of these cultures. For example, as Bantu groups settled in new homelands, legends were formed to explain the history of their ruling families and the structure of their societies. The inhabitants of Africa have not used written language until modern times. Instead, they had rich and nuanced oral traditions, passing myths, legends, and history from generation to generation in spoken form. In some cultures, professional storytellers preserved the oral tradition. Written accounts of African mythology began to appear in the early 1800s, and present day scholars labor to record the continent's myths and legends before they are lost to time and cultural change. Which brings me to my third question: how? Well, as stated before, oral narration of myths and folklore was kind of the main thing they did by the fireside then, aside, chewing opium field leaves and tobacco. And these stories have been told and retold for ages. And you know what happens when a story gets retold by mouth over and over again? It gets diluted, and gazillions of variations chum out like no tomorrow. So don't be surprised if in 2050 Shango has Amala with Thor while discussing Thunder stuff. So, in conclusion, a myth is just a retelling of a story that may or may not be true, and mythology is just as affiliated with the said culture like the way Instagram models are, in modest terms, obsessed with white sneakers. Myths follow a similar format or key elements, eloquently put. Africans mainly told myths by word of mouth over fire, cocoyam, and pure vibes, until the century a certain European empire made a document saying slave trade was no more, but later changed their mind. That would be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and my next video would be on